Software testers. Move beyond theory and master testing with the AI-powered ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q program. The ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q equips you with the theoretical skills and practical competence to truly excel. Learn how to apply black box testing like a pro. Estimate accurately, write flawless defect reports, and catch issues early. The ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q complements your ISTQB certification by turning knowledge into powerful action. Visit our website and find out more information.
Hello and welcome back to another session of A4Q Testing Summit. It's almost end of the first day of Testing Summit. My name is Atefe Amlashi and here I have Michael Pilaeten with me. Hello Michael and welcome.
Hi Atefe.
Michael brings more than 20 years of experience in test consultancy, helping organizations improve software quality and solve challenges in software development. He's chair of ISTQB Advanced Level Working Group and an author and an international keynote speaker with extensive expertise across diverse environments. Today, he will explore one of the most important aspects of successful software development, understanding the boundaries within a test team. We heard a lot today. Collaboration, communication, and human interaction become more and more important. So the team dynamics will affect quality and performance. In this session, Michael will share important signs that show when a team may be under pressure and how these challenges can affect productivity, satisfaction, and software quality. We are looking forward to hear that. The stage is yours, Michael.
Thank you, Atefe, for the very nice introduction. So since you all can follow this presentation live as well as recorded, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to the dear attendees of the A4Q Testing Summit. Unlike the title might suggest, this talk will not be about boundary value testing or test techniques in general. And just a placeholder, if you're looking for a talk about Gen AI, you might be a bit disappointed because this truly is about your team and your test team. What I would like to do is to share with you some stories about people forming teams, teams creating products, software products, and how those teams eventually can be pushed beyond their boundary values. But before we do that, I forgot to introduce myself, and that's hugely impolite. As Atefe said, I'm Michael, or Michael, or Mikael, or whatever you want to call me. It's all fine. And for the last 22 years, I've been active in the software world. In various roles, I've been part of different teams. I have coached and I've guided teams, and I've managed teams. When we want to create something, whether that is software or something else, we typically want to do this with, or at least as efficient and effective as possible. Typically, we want to have it fast and we want to have it as cheap as possible, and we also want it good. So working in IT, just like in sports, we are looking for the marginal gains to improve any of these three aspects. But from an inside view, improving IT for a better and a faster IT. But we must not forget that software is a business. Whether it's commercial or open source software, the same rules apply. deliver qualitative products on time within budget. Now, more importantly, software is by nature a people business. A statement that within these days of AI, it's a bit strange. But software is required by people and is used by people. It's not software using software. Still, people are central. So yes, a lot of things can be automated, should be automated, or created with the use of agents, but there's always the required human in the loop to verify the results, to validate the results, to steer where needed, to make decisions, to make sure we end up with the software we actually need. In order to deliver that qualitative software, team dynamics are essential because happy people produce quality. And in every kind of SDLC, software delivery model, collaboration and communication are essential. As said before, the human in the loop in the world of Gen AI or agentic AI is crucial. AI can and should be seen as a great collaborator, a great partner, but in order to become and in order to stay one, you need to focus on continuous communication. Communication with that AI is very similar to collaboration with a team member, because those people, your team members, also benefit from continuous communication. And there is something weird going on in the world of the AI fangirls and fanboys, the AI enthusiasts. If someone is complaining that the results of their AI-assisted, AI-guided, vibe, whatever, development, analysis, testing, that the result is not of the required quality, the advice is always to improve the prompting. Because prompting is the communication between humans and AI. It's never the tool who is blamed, it's always the prompting, the AI. But when a human gets a task and he or she does not produce the desired quality, few people will then highlight the prompting, the communication between people, as a source of the problem. People then rather focus on the technology behind everything, the tooling that we have, the IDEs that we have, the automation that we have, or the process behind it, but not on the people, which is a bit weird. So if something goes wrong and we use AI, it's due to the people. If something goes wrong and we're not using AI, it's not a technology, it's something else. So there's some misunderstanding there. Now, what is clear is that when you are focusing on communication, collaborating, you get better results. But if you forget about your team and your team members, if you fail to invest in your one true asset, your people, if you focus only on those processes and technology and not on people, then eventually your team will start falling apart. It will start just like this beach and the cliffs to erode. And what you then get is a bunch of issues with a lot of examples in nowadays worlds. Burnout, bore-out, quiet quitting. Well, especially that last one is very hard to detect, but that one can be detrimental to your team. If you don't know quiet quitting is a process where people lose motivation. So instead of leaving or resigning, they remain quiet and perform less while staying in your organization. That quiet quitting does not only affect your individual performance by doing just less in the same amount of time, but it also affects your team performance by lowering your morale, by setting lower standards, by making frequent context switching just normal, but also by lowering your total team velocity. So overall, a lot of things can and might go wrong with your team when you are not paying attention, when you don't respect your boundary values, when you assume that all is and will stay forever fine. So to avoid ending up in a situation where your team members or your team fail to deliver quality at the right time, at the right budget, at the right pace, I would like to share with you 10 clear signs that your team is stretched, overstretched, stretched too hard. And the earlier you are able to spot these signals coming from yourself, from your team members, from different teams, the sooner you can act upon those and the sooner you can mitigate the potential outcomes, the potential risks. So it's a list of 10 signs. The first sign is an increase in sick days. On average, in Europe, people experience between 1 and 3 periods of sickness per year. And those periods of sickness range between 1 day to 3 days. And of course, there are always reasons for abscesses due to more serious illness, let's say surgery or lengthier therapy. But on average, for the working population, AR departments calculate roughly 7.5 days of sickness per year. Those 7.5 days include long-term illnesses, like surgery and treatment, pregnancy, maternity leave, those lengthier periods, but just as much as having 1 day off because of some fever or not feeling too bad. So per person, it's on average 7.5 days of sickness per year. Now, when you, as a team member, are being pushed beyond your boundaries, beyond your limits, what you will see and what you should notice is that either as a team member or as a team lead, you will see that more frequent and especially short absences are quietly appearing. More people staying home for 1 or 2 days being sick. You will also notice some decompression, where your health issues, people being sick, mask and hidden overload. You're putting too much work on them, and then of course you can only stretch somebody so far, and at the end of an iteration, at the end of multiple iterations, at the end of a delivery period, you get a decompression and people get ill. Decompression happens a lot when people go on vacation. When the first couple of days, they get ill on vacation. That's because they were stretched too hard. And you will see that exhaustion, that being stressed too hard, that typically shows right before they leave the organization. At a certain point in time, the bucket is full and they cannot work anymore. So of course, people can and will get ill. You cannot become a superhuman that never gets ill. But you should monitor as a team member, as a team lead, the sick days within your team. When your average number changes, find out why. And of course, there can be plenty of valid reasons, but keep talking to your colleagues, making sure that if something changes, that you know the reason why the increase is there and act upon it. The second telltale sign is less quantitative and more qualitative. We can count sick days. We can keep track of that in Jira or whatever timesheet that we have. The second one is much harder to measure. It's qualitative. It's about laughing less. At a certain point in time, you might experience less laughter, less laughing in your team or your teams. A lower amount of jokes, a lower amount of practical jokes, pranks, just some and no real active laughter anymore. You will notice that your energy drains from group reactions, but more specifically, that positivity is replaced by obligation. Your colleagues, your team members, don't do things anymore just because they like it, but due to some strange form of social pressure, or even worse, because of managerial pressure, because they need to go on a team building. When you don't tackle this problem, your team morale will continue to decline. Now, the problem is that this is very hard to measure. You don't have a counter counting how many times somebody is laughing and how many times somebody is distracted, and if somebody is laughing, that's real or not. That's why this is a very hard thing to do. And typically, you will have some employee satisfaction questionnaire, a progress report, but that is most of the time a yearly initiative. By the time these responses of questionnaires are gathered, processed, and shared, several months have gone by and your team morale might have become so toxic that it's nearly impossible to turn around. So pay attention within your teams how people are responding to conversations, to jokes, to laughter. Are they less satisfied? Then it's time to see and to try to investigate what is going on. The third telltale sign that your team is under quite some stress is that certain mistakes start to surface in simple work. And sure, mistakes are human, and we wouldn't be humans if we don't make mistakes. You cannot avoid mistakes. But we're talking here not only about complex problems, rather about a rising number of errors in routine tasks, routine errors. Those errors can be due to stress, but typically elements like fatigue, being tired, play a vital role. Because when people experience fatigue, when they're tired, it erodes, it lowers their basic performance. On a personal level, you will notice a lower number of story points delivered per person. On a team level, you might even notice a velocity drop. Now, if you have a great team, some of the team members might start carrying some more load when other team members are honest and true in the stand-up. Yeah, yesterday I was not able to deliver this and this and this because I just became a parent and I'm a bit tired and so on. So then your other team members might catch up. But if this situation persists, and if we evolve in a CSD, a chronic sleep disorder, even the heroes which are covering your back in your team won't be able to continuously carry on that extra load. They will also start to experience the fatigue, what is likely to set the team even further back. A similar sign is certain quality drops without any warning or without any clear cause. More production issues, more defects slipping due to operations, just more defects, more discussions within the team or with other teams. So if your product backlog starts containing an increased number of issues compared to the number of user stories, a causal analysis might be appropriate. So without focusing only on technology, what went wrong, why didn't we find those defects, should we do more automation, should we highlight, should we do a scan, but also on the people. Could these defects be avoided, and how can we do that? That was your third one. Your fourth sign is a very visual one, when you're not paying attention. It's the signs, again, of fatigue, tiredness in people's body language. Well, how can you notice that, being part of a team, when somebody's shoulders are very slump, when the eyes of people are dull, when they almost see straight towards you, when their voice is fading away? If you do pay attention to people, your colleagues, your teams, will show with your body language what words, what meetings, what emails won't do. You can hide a lot if you don't meet people in person because you don't see that body language, you don't see that fatigue there. So pay close attention to that kind of nonverbal communication. Of course, it can surely be that somebody has had a bad day at the office, but even then, it's nice that someone acknowledges that. Michael, I see that you seem troubled a bit. Yeah, because I had some issues right there. Okay, fine. But then you feel appreciated, acknowledged. Now, if that behavior persists, if people continuously for multiple days in a row see signs of body language fatigue, act upon it. Have a coffee with one of your members. Go for a lunch. Go for a drink. Go for a walk. Listen to people. Actively listen to people. Because if you fail to notice their body language fatigue, or even worse, if you fail to act upon it, the energy of those people will leak silently away. It will affect their performance, it will affect their quality, but it will also negatively affect their team morale. The fifth sign, the fifth element, is the social withdrawal of your team members. In short, this is just about work being work, about not having real connections anymore at work. What you might notice are some signs like having fewer connections outside work, not joining for after work events, whether these are company organized or team organized, whether these are formal or less formal. In such an atmosphere of social withdrawal, you will notice the team evolving from collaboration to transactional. Shared assignments are suddenly sliced into individual tasks. Instead of working together on something, we distribute the work. And those tasks then become Jira tickets with SLAs and KPIs and statistics and dashboards. And before you know, you're not collaborating anymore, but you work completely alone. Your team can evolve from a collaborative mindset to a fully organized, transactional, siloed mindset, where the us together versus the me alone. Typically, in that case, your team will undergo your typical Kubler-Ross change process, where huge engagement in the beginning evolves to anger and eventually crumbles into a form of silence acceptance. I check out, I don't invest anymore, and I just let it be. I take the tasks as they come. Another one of these rather invisible signs is your typical morning, afternoon, lunch, coffee machine conversation. A good conversation between people is always active. People share personal things, they show empathy, even sympathy. You listen to each other and you act upon those. People share their wins and the challenges. But the moment your coffee machine conversation becomes a copy paste every day, you should start getting worried. Oops, that's not a goal. Apologies for that. So if you get questions or if you get conversation like, how was your weekend? Oh, it was quite busy. How are you? Okay. Is everything okay? Yeah. When people answer these open-ended questions with just one word, and you're probing for personal engagement, that's a sign that something is off. This might be something very temporary, which is fine because everybody has bad days, but it can also be the sign that your dynamics are going into the wrong direction, that people are checking out, that they are not being active anymore. So if you realize that your colleagues, your friends, your team members are not engaging anymore in conversation, go again for some deeper conversation. Try to get them on board again. Try to find out what is actually wrong. Is it a business? Is it work? Is it something personal? If they don't want to share, fine, but then at least you shown engagement, you notice that something's fine, and that's already crucial for them. The seventh sign is the negative evolution of creativity. When you are organizing, for example, an ideation meeting to come up with new ideas, when you organize a causal analysis meeting for an FMEA diagram or to investigate a reason why something is failing, or if you're doing any kind of workshop where a form of creativity is required, and the people in that workshop, in that meeting, are looking rather to their laptops and smartphones, then there's an issue with your creativity. What you then get is that your team's creativity will flatline. That new ideas stop surfacing in meetings, there's nothing new anymore. That your team energy goes from very active into a survival mode. Do we really need to be in that meeting? I have something else super duper important. I really have to finish this email. My presentation is almost ready. You can start already without me. So in the end, if that continues, that innovation fades into silence. People will be looking at each other, will be looking towards newcomers, and they're not contributing anymore. So again, just like many of these telltale signs, for a short period of time, this can be perfectly normal. Personal challenges can affect your drive. Every book author has days where the pages just remain blanks. It's a writer's block. But as a team, as a good collaborative team, you should be able to identify this, address it, discuss it, and mitigate it. Unlike some of the previous signs, Sign number 8 is something easily noticeable, trackable, and quantifiable. These are the deadlines which are continuously extended. Examples of these are teams with timelines on the sprint or iteration, on the release, on the project, on whatever level, but with very weak expectations or commitments. Can we do this? Can we deliver it? We might. Yeah, but what if? Well, in that case, maybe, typically yes, but we should. Those are weak commitments. Or another example are teams which are continuously stretched for their velocity. I know you're swamped with work, but can you please add this small feature? For our automation, we need to have this locator static. Can you just do this? Have you checked results of our agent? We need to launch it more globally. Such an overload of additional tasks will show up eventually as hidden delays. In general, the lower the commitment of your team, the more overload, the more context switching, and all the other factors influence your delivery. And that delivery of your software becomes more fragile, having to make difficult choices. Will we choose quality over quantity? Will we choose scope over speed? Or trying to bring everything together where we have to extend the deadline over and over again? So the telltale sign here is that if your team is not reaching its deadline continuously, you should investigate why. Is it because the scope was too large? Is it because we're expecting too much quality? Is it because we overestimated their velocity? Is it because they're not performing up to standard? And whatever the reason might be, act upon those. Question this. Use these retrospectives to really find out what is going on. We're going again from a quantitative item to a qualitative item. Your ninth sign is that the initiative within your team starts to vanish, starts to disappear. Where in the past, when someone said, hey, I have a great idea, we should try this, people stood up and said, yes, I'll organize or do this. When that kind of volunteering, when that kind of initiatives disappears, you have an issue. So new ideas, if there are any, they fade silently into silence. Shall we try, I went to a conference, shall we try this new retro technique? Yeah, sure. Okay, we have some troubles with a test management tool. Let's say we have troubles with Zephyr. Shall we switch to X-ray? So a bit of silence. Progressing on that, teams only do what is being asked or assigned. As said before, in that case, your work becomes sequential, task-based. And even worse, it becomes from a pull work mechanism. I have nothing to do right now, so I check which task I'll perform or where I can help, which is the most efficient way to keep your flow in your team going, towards a push mechanism where you need to take up these tickets as ASAP because your manager, your team lead, your group lead has the gut feeling, has that icky feeling that something is wrong, where then he or she starts micromanaging or assigning tasks to keep the flow going instead of taking a step back or having the team take the commitment. So typically what you will see is that what was once passion has now turned into compliance, when yes, with an exclamation mark, now evaporates into an or silence. If that's the case, then you need to step in and figure out what is actually going on. The last sign that I want to share with you is that overtime, or even worse, weekend work, becomes the new normal. Expressions like, yeah, but I'm just catching up, or I'm finishing this last itchy-bitchy thing, or yeah, I know, but this is really, really, really important, that something like that turns into a routine. Your own boundaries, your team boundaries, they start to disappear in the name of productivity. Yeah, but if I don't do this commit right now, my team cannot continue to work. If I don't write this code right now, the tester cannot continue. Well, the balance between your work and your life breaks quietly. It's not a sudden crack No, it's erosion again. While your partner and your kids and your friends or your family are doing all kinds of stuff, you are thinking about work, or you actually are working in your private time. Now, when you are performing overtime, you're not actually helping your company or your team. You are not helping yourself. Let's say that your estimated velocity for an iteration is 20. And suppose you cannot make that velocity, this iteration, until you perform 3 hours of overtime. Then something is fishy. Either your initial estimation was off, which is perfectly okay as long as you learn from it, but it can also be a sign of a flawed promise. Because when you perform your overtime, what do you think that will happen to your estimated velocity the next iteration? Yeah, exactly. It will remain the same, require you to perform your overtime again and again and again. And for your team members, if they start comparing your velocity with their velocity, what everybody knows they should never do, but in fact, what everybody silently does, they are incentivized to also perform overtime to par to lever your velocity. And you're overstretching the entire team out of the good feeling that you want to give because you want to finish this customer story, but you're eventually destroying your entire team. Now, I've highlighted 10 telltale signs, so many challenges and problems. Now, I'm that old that I realize that if you have a problem that no one else can solve, no. It's not the A team that will solve it. It's also not the AI team that will solve it. It is science that can solve it. What can science and academia tell us about this? How can we turn the story around? How can you better motivate your team, remove those boundaries from your team, and increase the satisfaction? I want to share some number of studies that I've looked up, that I investigated with you, coming from science, coming from academia, to show how can you improve your team cohesion and collaboration. The first one is one from Carnegie Mellon University in a collaboration with Microsoft. And two elements are important in that study. One of them is that frequent team changes, so people joining, leaving the team, up and down scaling your teams, going from tribes to guilds to whatever, these impact your team morale. That meaning a lot of team changes negatively impact your stability, negatively impact your team morale, and your team morale negatively impacts quality. So the more team changes you have, the more negatively impact is your productivity, your morale, and your quality. The second thing there is that your knowledge continuity is also affected. A stable team composition ensures the right level of documentation. Not too much documentation, not too little documentation, just the right level. If you have an unstable team composition with regards to the change in your team, in that case, heavier documentation is recommended, but it also increases your documentation and the maintenance cost of the documentation. So the better you know your team, the easier it is to identify the person with the right knowledge, the lower the need for documentation. But also practices like shared ownership, code ownership, test ownership, documentation ownership help mitigate certain quality risks. So the key takeaway from this study is that stability and knowledge sharing are essential, are the key to maintaining quality within a software development or delivery team. The second study is a very, very recent study by the Journal of Information Studies and Informatics. They highlight that your internal team dynamics have a direct relationship with the resulting software quality. They tell you that trust is the strongest predictor of software quality and of your productivity. So when your team members know and they express and they truly believe that they can trust each other, both your productivity of your team and the resulting quality are improved. They also highlight that effective communication and collaboration significantly improve the outcome, the quality of your software. So working tools that really assist in creating better software, meaning a Confluence setup which is properly set up, a Miro board or a mural for ideation, a Teams not crashing, that actively improves your software quality. But on the other hand, poor dynamics like unclear documentation or lower trust in the team typically lead to more rework, delays in delivery, and lower quality of the software. And they also highlight that if you have positive conflict resolution and you have team diversity, both in terms of gender and other aspects, they correlate very well with a higher efficiency and a higher velocity, better software outcomes in your team. So the takeaway on this study is that your software quality depends more on your social factors and not that much on technical practices. The third study that I want to express, this is not one study, it's a group of studies, is coming from the universities of Atlanta and of Pepperdine University. And there the topic is that group cohesion has a positive effect on the decision-making quality in software teams. Now, decision-making is crucial, especially in agile environments. In agile, there your teams take responsibility to make decisions about design and decisions about implementation. Is this story good enough? Can we start development? Is this story good enough to start in production? So it's continuously making decision. It also talks that cohesion bringing the team together, it moderates the impact of time pressure. If there's a challenge on the pressure, if it's still okay, but can we do more, that improves your decisions. But if the pressure is hindrance, if it's continuously switching context and changing priorities, that harms your decision. So the more coherent your team is, the more you follow the same vision, the same story, the same policy, the better you can deal with changing decisions. Your teamwork also improves by increasing efficiency. By better teamwork, you have less defects, you have better solution quality. So you might think, okay, but Michael, how can we go for more cohesion? Well, the drivers of cohesion are communication. Speak out loud. That is why in Agile, we are continuously working on the daily stand-up, on the retrospective of less documentation. It's also about shared goals and mutual support, understanding where we are going. Follow the compass, not having a map highlighting point per point where to go to. Let the team decide how to go somewhere, but have that vision. So the takeaway here is that a better team cohesion will result in better decisions being made by the teams, which then reflect in fewer defects and a higher quality system. Because cohesive teams produce more reliable and more maintainable software. The fourth study is from the International Journal of Computer and Information Engineering. And the study there says that communication richness, so having very good qualitative communication, directly affects your software quality. And in particular, your requirements understanding increases, you have less unclarity, you have less inconsistency, your coordination becomes better, you have less silos, you have increased understanding. It also includes that if you work in a distributed team, distributed over multiple physical locations, that you need a higher level of communication intensity to achieve the same level of quality as co-located teams. And that poor communication leads to a higher number of defects. What the study also shows that the ideal team size from a communication point of view is 7. Because with 7, you have already 21 communication channels. So a lot of potential communication channels that go wrong. So the key message here is that Your communication breakdowns, if your communication doesn't work, are one of the main root causes of software defects. More than bad development, communication is the root cause of issues in production. The final study is from Springer Nature. It is based on a literature on agility in software and its relationship with organizational performance. They use a set of more than 200 studies ranging from the 2000s to last year. What does the study say? Well, that agile practices that promote team interaction, stand-ups, feedback loops, that these have a statistically significant positive effect on quality. So the more interactions you have, the better quality of software you will create. It also highlights that collaboration and iterative feedback will improve defect detection. By collaborating, you will find more defects, but also that your stakeholders, your product owners, your customer will be more satisfied. However, there's also a trade-off, and that's something that we should warn you for. That is, the more communication you have, that can slightly reduce your productivity because of overhead. You can have the feeling that you're in meetings too much. If you're spending more than half of your day in meetings and in stand-ups and retrospectives, then you're creating too much communication channels. So it's about finding the right balance there. So the takeaway here is that structured collaboration practices can elevate your quality, even if they introduce a certain coordination cost. I hope this talk can help you, your team, in identifying some potential hidden issues within your teams, within your organization. Because by overcoming these challenges, your productivity, your efficiency, your effectiveness, but maybe even more importantly, your happiness will increase, as shown by the studies that I've highlighted. So when you are considering where to find those marginal gains we started talk with, to get to better software, to get to better products, to better project, next time, start considering the people aspect of those things. That's it from my side. If you want to stay in touch, if you have questions, feel free to contact me. I have a LinkedIn profile, feel free to connect. I'm open for any questions you might have. Have a great day and a great continuation of the A4Q Testing Summit.
Thank you, Michael. It was a great content. And thank you for reminding us that the software quality is not only about processes and tools, but also people and team dynamics. It was a valuable session highlighting how team collaboration can directly influence the long-term quality. Before we move to audience question, I would like to ask you one question based on your experience in different work with different teams. Can you share an example with us when you saw a team reaching its boundary, the warning signs, and the action that helped team to recover?
I can, but I cannot name official names of customers or teams of people, of course. I was working as a testing quality manager in a financial institution, and we were revamping a piece of software that was directly addressed to end customers, both B2B and B2C. And of course, there was a deadline that we needed to finish. Because of the deadline, we brought the entire team together. We put everybody together in a war room and start focusing on developing, analyzing, testing all together. But the workload was so high that even all our conversation became about business and not so much anymore about our personal life. So instead of sharing what bonded us together, we started sharing the challenges we were having. So the conversation became very negative. Now, on the positive side, we succeeded in delivering the software on time within the quality, but at the end, a lot of people left that team because of the pressure. They didn't want to have that pressure anymore. So we succeeded as a team in delivering the software, but we failed as a team to be there for each other and to guarding our own boundary values.
Thank you. I can also see some question coming in from our audience. How do you compose an ideal team?
Okay, well, there's no silver bullet there. There's no golden rule that you can follow. I think there are a number of things that can help you. I mean, everybody has their own skill set and they have their own personality. Ideally, your team is rather diverse with a lot of different personalities and characters, but they should have some bonding together. If you put people together who are rather on the introvert side next to somebody who's very extrovert, that can create challenges. So you need to balance energy level, communication styles, way of thinking, way of representing ideas, so that it matches. For certain elements, if it doesn't work in your team, you can go for specialization without your team or outside of your team. So bring the people together, but also differences highlight new ideas. If you bring somebody in your team who has some new ideas, that challenges you and that helps you evolve. So it's a fine line of being comfortable and having the perfect team and just going out of your comfort zone and being challenged. So it's a mix of both.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And do we have another question? Yes. How can I become a good team lead? It's my question too.
Yeah, that's a great one, especially for those seeking for a career. Now, for me, a team lead is not a career and is not even a function. It's a role somebody takes. A team lead for me has nothing to do with seniority or levels or budget or salary or whatever. A team lead is something that you grow into. You can have a very junior person that can be a good team lead. Typically, those are those people with sensors that feel how the other team members are feeling themselves, who realize something is going wrong with the communication, with the vibe within the team, and that have great empathy and can express that. A good team lead is not somebody who micromanages things, but who let the team take decision, ownership, responsibility, accountability, and that brings everybody in their powers, that puts everybody in the right positions and allow them to think for themselves and enforces them in that. That is for me the path to become a great team lead.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for sharing your insight with us. If you enjoy Michael's presentation, don't forget to vote by scanning the QR code. You can see the QR code on the screen. And before we close, a quick reminder that Summit continues tomorrow. We will have alongside our A4Q tracks in English or dedicated track in German, sponsored by German Testing Board, and our French track sponsored by CFTL, with many interesting discussion and conversation waiting for you. Thank you again, Michael. Thank you everyone for joining and enjoy the rest of Summit.
Software testers. Move beyond theory and master testing with the AI-powered ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q program. The ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q equips you with the theoretical skills and practical competence to truly excel. Learn how to apply black box testing like a pro. Estimate accurately, write flawless defect reports, and catch issues early. The ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q complements your ISTQB certification by turning knowledge into powerful action. Visit our website and find out more information.